Oh, there we go. Well, we're all set. Countdown. Lights on. Lights, camera. Now you know where they get lights,
Lights,
camera,
cameras,
action.
action.
We need Sandra with the clapper. What do
You
you
know
say?
what that thing is? I just learned.
What is it?
That that clapper
Yeah.
thing is the cue to start the audio and the visual because they're on two separate tracks.
Are you
But
serious?
yeah, but not here at the Jersey Alchemist.
Oh, okay.
Ready,
All
brother?
right, let's do it. All right.
Okay.
I love when you do that voice check. That's a voice check.
What,
You've been keeping that a
okay?
secret.
The okay thing?
Yeah, that's a voice check.
Okay.
5, 4, 3, 2,
Just again.
1.
Okay. Welcome back, friends. Welcome back to the Jersey Alchemist, and I'm your host, Dr. John Gerard Galucci.
And I'm Philip D'Angelo.
What's going on, bro?
Not much. How are you?
Good?
Everything okay?
Yeah?
We have some new things to talk about here. It's been a while. I noticed Bones is directly in camera shot today.
He is.
You know,
He's casting shadows.
I believe he requested a more prime location. He didn't like where he was, camera angles. So of course we placate him.
Yeah.
He's demanding. He's got a
Right.
good union rep.
Yeah,
I noticed he has a stethoscope. Easy for me to say.
he does. He's a pediatrician today. He's got his bow tie on, but you can't see it. And it's a beautiful little red, white, and blue. He's patriotic bow tie and his pediatric stethoscope. And so
Impressive.
Bones is a pediatrician. He was confiding in me that, back in the day when he was a kid, there were no pediatricians. This was way back. And, they were just general practitioners that took care of everybody. So, yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Okay. How you doing today? Everything fine?
Uh,
You look fantastic.
likewise, Phil.
You too.
You know what I did
No.
on Friday?
What?
Friday is garbage day
Okay.
at the ranch.
All right.
So you put your garbage cans out on Thursday night and Friday, like at 5:30 in the morning.
How many? All right. If I can. How
Yeah.
many days do you get garbage pickup?
Twice a week.
All right. My town, it's once a week. Now, why is that?
Well, the only thing I can think of is that we pay the mob for pickup twice a week, and you probably have it through your township.
Oh,
Is that it?
maybe. I was just curious because that stuff piles up. You have a
Yes.
barbecue or something or a party, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of extras. So, all right. I was just curious.
Right.
All right. So go ahead.
So, I went out about my business, and I guess I got home at around 10 o'clock at night. And there was the can still on the curb.
Wow.
A third of the street that I live on, the cans are still on the curb, right?
Okay.
So what I do, instead of pulling into my driveway, up the driveway, into the garage, then I got to walk all the way back out, lazy me, I like to pull up to the can. I turn it around because it's one of those big, heavy green plastic cans on wheels. I shut the lid, and then I back up with it, and then I K-turn into my driveway, and then I drag it with the car all the way up to the house. I don't know, the driveway's about 100 feet long, something like that, right? So I can't get the garbage can into the garage because there's not enough room, and I know that. And I've done this 1,000 times. So up goes the door, and I actually even thought to myself, wow, you nailed it, old man, you nailed it. I was perfectly in line with the aperture that is my garage. I let go of the garbage can, it rolls to a stop, and I slowly roll in. My right quarter panel clears, like I knew it would. My right side view mirror clears easily, and now I'm just kind of cruising real slow into the garage. And then I hear crunch, crash, smash, snap, boom. And I was like, what the?
What? The...
What? Well, let's do that again. What the?
Wow.
And I was like, you asshole. You hit your garage door. You hit you hit the door jamb on your garage.
Wait,
And
wait,
it
wait.
was so perfect.
Wait a minute, John. So instead of going back, you're driving and dragging the can at the same time.
Yeah, and you got to
Going
have your wits.
forward,
You got to have your wits about you
it's
because
not an easy
it's
task.
no, it's a challenge. Everything I do, I take a challenge, and
Okay.
if that can hits the curb, you're ripping your arm off. You because it's a heavy can. You're rolling, but you're rolling slow, and your arm is kind of leveraged like this. You're not really in a position of power. Either way, your arm is going to lose, no matter how tough you are.
But it takes a certain amount of muscle to hold on to that can.
Takes a certain amount, but if you
Okay.
do it right, it's easy.
Okay.
And I've done this, I can't tell you how many times I've done it. So I get out and I look. Not only is my right molding in the middle of the driveway because it compressed and then it snapped and it went boing like an elastic band, but I realized that it's not even the right rear quarter panel. This is like the right rear lower, like 1/10 panel. And it's all plastic and it's all smash OLED. And then I realized, okay. Well, then I said, oh, okay, this can't be too bad. It's only like a piece like this big. Then I'm looking for the seam. I'm looking for the junction. Guess what? That stinking little rear lower 1/10 panel is as one with the entire back bumper and on the left side of the car. Now I'm like, I was so fumed and so upset at myself that I was like, okay. Now I'm going to be that guy who rides around with a car that's smashed. And it's going to be like that. It's going to be like that for a year because I'm just not spending the money. Because, I used to think if you take the car back to the dealership for Autobody work, they screw you worse than the Autobody people. But then I realized because I had gone through this, what they do is they charge you a middleman fee and then they job it out to somebody on Route 22 anyway.
You know what I don't like about this story? Well, all right, I'm not crazy about you dragging the can, but what I don't like is the end result. All right, you need a body shop, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing worse. Tell me if you've been in this position before, where no matter what it is, I mean, a mechanic, you need a body shop. What do we know about body shops? I don't know anything. I don't know anything about cars, right? You're totally, and everybody you bring it to, and give that first look see, like, hey, I scratched my bumper. Could you come take a look at it? The guy's coming out with his clipboard, and he's looking, and the first thing he's going to do is go, whoa. And you're thinking it's just a little bit, right? And he's writing down, and you're like, well, what are you looking at? He goes, well, he's shaking his head.
Right.
He's going to take a tape measure, right? Or that laser beam. He's going to say, wow, look at this. It's the whole quarter pound.
Right.
I mean, you're not in a position of knowledge where you just don't know what it's going to cost, how much is it.
Right.
And before you know it, he goes, well, with labor, we're going to have to keep the car for about a month. And it'll be about $6,500, but I'm sure you have a deductible, and of course your deductible is like $5,000 or whatever it is. So you got to pay the first $5,000, but it never ends good when you go through insurances.
Right. So I have another story about auto bodies.
Wow.
And are we trying to offend
No,
the
no.
auto body industry or the good people that own and run auto bodies? No, we're not. We are just going to tell the story as per our experience dealing with you.
John, let me say,
Yeah.
like a good pediatric surgeon, a good mechanic, a good doctor, nurse, a good chef, once you find those guys, they're
Yeah.
as good as gold. You have them for life. You're
Yeah.
loyal. They always take care of you, so don't get the wrong impression that we're saying, picking. It's just that we don't know about it.
Right.
And what we think is a small job is like some ginormous
Right.
big problem.
So I had an SUV going back 2013 or 14.
Okay.
And somebody hit my back bumper in a parking lot. The local Acme parking lot's just killing me. And so I took it to an auto body locally, And the owner of the Autobody was a friend of mine that owns a local restaurant. Okay. So I go. He comes out with the clipboard.
Oh, told
He
you.
comes out with comes out with the clipboard.
Problem.
And instead of giving the old, oh man, are you? Oh no, it was just no. He was slicker than that. He's looking real upbeat. He's like, okay, yeah, all right, okay, all right, all right, all right. He's trying to suck me in.
Nice guy
So,
routine.
all nice guy routine, talking all about how his best friend is my friend from the restaurant. I says, well, what do you think there, Cappy? And he says, well, he goes, he goes, these cars now comes the head shake. These cars of today. He goes, they're not like the cars of yesteryear. Okay. All right. He goes, the bumpers are all plastic. He goes, and they're all interconnected, and they have like plastic mollies that hold the bumper on. He goes, I can't really give you an estimate. And I looked at him and I says, you mean you want me to leave? Oh, no. He says, I just can't give you a reliable estimate. I says, wait a minute. I said, this is your business. This is how you make your living.
Sure.
And judging by the looks of you and this establishment, you've been doing this for 30 years. Yeah. I said, what do you mean you can't give me an estimate? He goes, you never know what we're going to find when we take the bumper off. I says, oh, no. I says, you know exactly what you're going to find when you take the bumper off. It's like asking me, hey, look at these CAT scans, Doc.
Yeah.
What's this big tumor here? Oh, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to find. Yes, I do know what I'm going to find. And the operation could take 4 hours or it could take 14 hours, but I'm aware of that, and it isn't going to change the price of the operation. Love the button now. We got the button going hot.
Imagine if you told the patient, well, I could cut some corners.
Right. I can cut some corners. We can
maybe not do a thorough
We
job.
can get you off the table, as quick as possible, but
Yeah.
you might need to come back.
Yeah. Oh
Right?
my gosh, that's
Or your wound may open. But what's the big deal? Well, we'll just shove them back in, right?
Yeah.
So what he really wanted from me, he wanted me to write him a blank check.
Wow.
Right? And I said, well,
Wow.
give me a low ball. He says, $2,000? $2,000. It was like a little tiny crease in a plastic bumper, $2,000. But that doesn't count for what we may find underneath the bumper, because you never know what we're going to find. You lying little piece of shit. That's what you are. Wow. So guess what? All right. Okay. I'll let you know. I almost came across with the F word again. I can't overuse the button. Yeah. So I left. And then somebody said to me, there's this old guy on Route 22. And I think he must have passed, because they sold the place, and now it's this spectacular big doggy hotel for people who go on vacation, except they opened their doors a month before the pandemic hit. Boy, did they get screwed like everybody else. Anyway, little old guy comes out. He looks at it. He's all bent over. He's got his clipboard. He says, $1,200. I said, wait a minute. I said, is that $1,200 before you take the bumper off? He goes, what the hell what are you talking about, bud? He says, I just gave you my estimate, $1,200, because I've been doing this for 45 years. I says, okay, you got the job. And he fixed it, and it was $1,200, and it was as good as new, and I didn't have to give him a blank check. I mean, what, we could talk all day about how certain businesses are specifically set up to lie to you, to screw you, to cheat you. And the business that I was in, you can't do that. You can't do that.
No. Talk about estimates, John. I moved into a new house, my family and I, years ago, and it needed a fence in the backyard. So I said, okay, need a fence. I envisioned that would be part of the, the cost of moving
Right.
in. So I called one place. I had no idea who does fences, Called one place. Guy shows up, not very friendly, gives me a price. But that's okay.
Not very friendly. It's like you're bothering me.
No small talk, but gave me a price, all
Right.
business. Okay, now that comes in, and another price, and they were close to each other.
Right.
I'll never forget the third guy. Okay, and I'm going to speak bad about my people, and I do apologize, but this got under my skin. Here comes the third estimate for the fence in a brand new red Corvette that he didn't park in the street. He pulled into my driveway with, which I thought was a little bold.
Yeah,
All right,
right,
and the Corvette was beautiful, and it
right.
was brand new. And he came over and he's talking, he's calling me all kind of,
Yeah,
friendly, hey,
yeah,
what's up, bud?
yeah.
Cuz, that
Hmm.
typical maybe Jersey thing. And then I tell him my name, and he goes, well, yeah, all right. He gives me his estimate. He goes, but before I give it to you, he goes, I'm Italian, you're Italian. He goes, do the right thing. This is what he told me. True story. And I'm like, well, okay, well, what's your quote? He was $2,000 more than the other two guys. Do the right thing. I said, are you kidding me?
Right,
Do the right thing. You can do the right thing. Get in your fancy new red Corvette and drive out of here because you
right.
don't have the job. Imagine the nerve of somebody saying that. I'm Italian, you're Italian. Do the right thing, he's telling me. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
he's going to charge me $2,000 more than anybody else. And he couldn't come for like 8 months. True story.
Right. So I have a similar story. You knew I would,
Well,
right?
go ahead.
That's to me. That is just so.
Imagine that.
That's so effing abusive. It's disgusting. And by the way, people, leave some comments, please. Let us know you're out there. We can hear you breathing.
Yeah.
But is it true for your own particular ethnicity that nobody knows how to insult and attack whatever you are like your own people? That's how it is with Italians. There's no worse assailant or adversary for an Italian American or an American of Italian origin than another American of Italian origin. That's it. They are il primo attack artists, and they're full of ego and bullshit, and it's really disheartening. I would never think that. I don't think of people's ethnicities or what they are or the color of their skin. Absolutely not. Just treat me the way you want to be treated. You know, the golden rule. So my story is, I guess about 6 years ago, my air conditioning was kaput in my house. It's one of those external, what's it called when your whole house is
Central air.
Central air, yeah. We're getting old.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So it was done. And when I really went out to pay attention to it, I realized, man, this thing is as old as the hills. So I got some references and I called up some people. And here comes this guy in his truck. I'm not going to say the name of the company.
Please don't.
And it was just exactly the same story that you told, minus the red Corvette. He starts heavy in on me with the ethnicity stuff. Oh, our grandparents are probably from the same hills of Italy and all of that.
Bullshit.
All of that bullshit, right? And then he gives me an estimate for 32 bleeping $1,000 to put a new air conditioning unit in for my $32,000. I don't live in a mansion. I don't have a string of Peloponnese. I don't. I live in a split level. It's a 4-bedroom. It is what it is. The house was built in the early to mid '60s. $32,000.
Wow.
Right. So what I did was I says, okay, give me a car, blah blah blah. I'll be making a decision soon because it was like June. It was a hot June,
Of course.
and so I tell my friend Sandra about it, and she says, "Are you kidding?" She goes, "Call PSE&G." I went, PSE&G? I don't have a gas leak. Slap my head. She goes, call them up. She goes, they'll put it in the next day. She goes, it'll be a fraction of that cost. $5,000 the next day, completely installed. I put it on my PSE&G bill that spread it out over, I think, a year. Done. That's simple. So, these private companies, these private air conditioning and heating companies, that guy was so over the top. Think about the difference. $5,000 versus $32,000. What was I getting for my money? Was the cool house going to be any better with his than with PSE&G? The answer is no.
John, let's take it from the opposite side, though. Have you ever been in a situation where you needed an estimate or something, and you spoke to somebody, and you knew a mutual acquaintance, and you interject that at mutual acquaintance? I know I do. Like, hey, you know so and so, don't you? Like, you're hoping that that'll.
Hoping
So
it's
it
gonna make a
happens both
difference.
ways, you know. And sometimes I know I've done that in the past. If I know, like, hey, I know this is going to hurt me, but maybe if, you throw a name out there, it won't hurt you as much. So maybe the customer is guilty too.
Nothing comes to mind for me. That
Really?
doesn't mean that it hasn't happened, but I always feel like if I try to pull a card, so to speak,
Yeah.
they're going to shove it up my ass.
Oh boy. Yeah.
That's just how my life
You
has
better
been.
make sure. Yeah, you better make sure that name you're bringing is not like like
Yeah.
the in-laws or something like that.
Right,
Like,
right.
yeah. Didn't you marry into so and so family? Yeah, and the guy's divorced or something. That'd be a problem. Yeah. But that's what happens when you're like it's something we need done, and we're just not knowledgeable on that.
Right.
What do we do?
Well, I think that's what makes the world go around. This guy's knowledgeable and the other guy's not, and then you have to. I think the bottom line here is you better do your homework and you better not be so trusting of people that come up and give you estimates, because so many people want to just give you a blank check.
Yeah.
I remember my dad, who knew thousands and thousands and thousands of people because he was an educator for decades and decades. And he was this big, larger than life guy, so that if he worked in a group 4 high school like Bloomfield or Nutley High School for decades, and each graduating class had, I don't know, what did they have, 1,500 people,
Yeah,
maybe,
back
right?
then, absolutely.
Right? Okay. So he knew thousands of people. So I needed, the car that I had at the time was, I don't know, a Honda Accord. This is going way back.
A 4-cylinder Honda Accord.
Something like that, yeah.
It's tough going up hills in that car.
And I needed,
remember that car.
I don't know what. I needed something. He says, "Oh, go see so and so. Oh, he's right down the road. He's got a Sunoco station." And all right, okay. So I says, all right, fine. I look him up. I talk to the guy on the phone. Oh yeah, Mr. Oh yeah, I remember him. Like immediately, trying to minimize the fact that my father was his teacher in high school. If it were me, and somebody said, "Oh, you remember Mr. So-and-so," I'd go, "Oh my God, yeah, of course. Oh, we had such a good time. He was my track coach. He was my football coach. He was this, he was that." He started to minimize the fact that apparently he and my father had a relationship, like a good, tight relationship. Okay. I take the car in. He said, "Leave it here, bye. Leave it there. Oh, yeah, we'll give you a call. We'll give you a call." And now I'm feeling a little bit like not good. So I called my father and I says, "Hey," I said, "this guy's like a jerk off. He's trying to minimize the fact that you were one of his teachers." And he said, "Oh, yeah, put the car there. Yeah, leave the keys on the, yeah, all right, we'll give you a call." Oh, like I'm a gnat that flew up your nose. All right. So 3 days later, he calls me up. He tells me it's like $2,100. And then he also throws in the fact that I said, $2,100. I said, for something that didn't seem like it was such a big deal. He goes, "Well," "we had to do all 4 rotors." I says, "Well, wait, whoa, what?" I said, "All 4 rotors?" I said, "What? I didn't ask you to look at my brakes or do the rotors." I says, "You know what?" I says, put the pieces that you did in my trunk." He says, "No, you can't have them." No, he says, "You can't have them." He goes, a service comes by and takes them away. I said, "But they belong to me." I says, "And you expect me to pay you $2,100 and you did all 4 rotors and we never talked about that?" This is, here, I always like to make it like, what if this were me? This would be like,
And you're talking back in the day.
What if I
so-
had to do an operation on somebody, right?
Okay.
Like I've done 14,000 times. And I open up their belly and I see that they've got two inguinal hernias, because you could see that from the inside, and it may never have manifested, or maybe it did, but the guy didn't say anything. So maybe I'm doing why I'm there, and then I maybe do an internal hernia repair. And I tell the guy, and I rape the guy over it and go, oh, you had hernias. Oh,
That's not covered.
That would be like the Autobody guy saying, oh, you never know what we're going to find when we take the bumper off. Oh, you better leave me a blank check, bud.
Yeah.
Otherwise, your life just ain't worth living.
Yeah.
So it's like, who are these
I don't know.
jokers?
Yeah.
Who are these jokers?
It happens. Listen, John, like anything else, there's good and there's bad, Some people are just out. Some people have to make, they have a car payment or a boat payment or a house payment, or they have the 18 kids at home.
Or they got to pay for their yearly country club
Or country
dues,
club
and then
dues
they got to
they do.
kick up to 10,000 that you're supposed to spend a year.
That's right.
Like
And-
the Upper Montclair
and
Country
how they
Club.
get it. And,
right.
And it all depends. I had a friend that owned a gas station, okay? He had a gas station in a very affluent town, and he did really well with it. And he was there for years, and then he sold it because he wanted to move. He just wanted a change of pace. Somebody made him a good offer. He sold it. He goes, oh, I could do this anywhere. I'll be successful. And he is a fantastic mechanic, can fix anything. And he did that. And then he moved into a more of a blue collar town. Well, guess what? He had a big time. His business did not last long there because those people could not afford the prices he was used to giving.
His bullshit.
Well, yeah. He just had clientele that could pay for it in one location, and the other location, and it was only 2 towns away, but it was extremely blue collar, and they could not afford his
Right.
prices, and
Right.
he had to close that shop up.
Wow.
He took a
right.
beating.
Well, isn't that let the market speak?
Yeah, very well said. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're going somewhere, are you going to have a steak in Manhattan, or are you going to have it down the road from your house? I mean, that's different pricing. That could have
That's
something. to do
another
with it.
rabbit hole.
Yeah,
Holy
really.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let me just slip this in here. Because when we finish the episode and we turn it around, we do our spiritual turnaround and we alchemize the bullshit and turn dark to light, fear to love, and lead to gold. These people that we're talking about, and this doesn't indict an entire industry. It doesn't indict auto bodies or gas station owners or mechanics or doctors or lawyers. These people that we're bitching and complaining about are clearly here to be in service for themselves. Now, the average person would hear that and say, well, if you're not in service for yourself, nobody else is going to do it for you. Well, we understand that, but if you go through life cheating and screwing your fellow man, what you give is going to come back at you tenfold. So let's just remember this, that will alchemize the people who are here in service for themselves and not in service of others. Now, you could be in service of others and still be in service for yourself, but it doesn't mean that you have to be somebody that's going to pillage, rob, rape, and murder everybody else. I mean, because you're a hammer, everybody's a nail. I mean, that's a primitive, low frequency, third dimensional, warlike way of going through your life. Take stock of who you are and how you move through life. And if you don't move through your life with your heart, it's going to come back at you, brothers and sisters. And I promise you, and this may make you snicker and laugh, but if it doesn't in this lifetime, you're setting yourself up for a ton of hurt and bad karma for the next lifetime. Yeah.
So, John, it might not really be. We started this conversation off with industries that we know nothing about to take advantage. What it really comes down to, you touched on it, is human nature. I mean, what kind of human are you? I mean, listen, everybody wants to get paid. Everybody needs to get paid for what they do. All
Yeah,
right.
right.
Especially if it's a specialty. I get that. And we're all for that. But like, at what point is enough enough? At what point are you just going to charge phenomenal amounts of money, and that, what you're charging is way over what it should be?
Yeah.
If are you taking advantage of that single mom? Are you taking advantage of that elderly couple that, maybe you might give somebody else a more competitive price? I mean, I think it's more about human nature. One thing, the one word that always intrigued me: greed. I don't think I've never had enough where I need more, I need more, I need more. But I always wondered, people in a position of power, when is enough enough? I mean, you can go anywhere with this, whether it's politicians, whether it's, any big corporation, whether it's just anybody. When does greed take over?
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, think about that.
you mean when do the scales holistically tip over toward we're living in a world of greed?
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
isn't greed resting on a platform of fear? I think it is. I think it is. I can remember somebody who will go unnamed, somebody who used to be very close to me, who said, "I want all the money in the world." And I said, "Well, okay, why? What's behind that?" Because I could never live with myself if I go without. What happens if we run out of money? And
Hmm.
I says, "Well, then you don't believe that God provides." I said, "So do your chosen profession. Do what you're going to do. Get reasonably paid for it." I said, "Then where are you going beyond that? You want to start a business beyond that? Start a business, but don't be screwing people out of money. I mean, that's bad karma. That's bad karma. That's how I look at it."
I mean, that is the drive with some people, though. That greed takes over, John, and that is their driving force. They forsake relationships, they forsake family, all in that lust for more power, more money. I mean, and you see it happen everywhere. You know, I don't understand. At what point do you not start giving back to the community? Like, what is it that you want to keep all that money and you don't give it back to help people? At some point, you have to start helping people, but a lot of people in that situation, they just don't.
They don't. Yeah.
No, they'll step over you if you're down on the ground, and I don't
Oh,
understand that
oh,
mentality.
yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. It's like, remember those scenes from, I think we mentioned this before in another episode, those scenes from The Little Rascals where somebody makes it big. I think Alfalfa made it big and Spanky was in the gutter.
Oh,
And
really? I
Alfalfa
don't
had a
remember.
top hat and
Oh, yeah, yeah,
tails and an
yeah.
overcoat coming out of the theater,
Mm.
you know,
There was
looked at him and then just kept going.
there was a message in that old corny kid show, huh?
Yeah, oh,
Wow,
absolutely,
wow.
yes. Yeah,
I mean, it's pretty amazing. That always intrigued me. Is like why people can't turn off that greed and that money and that power.
right,
And that's not saying that everybody should be driven to be successful. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing what we're doing.
right.
Everybody wants to keep pushing and keep going and feel that and bask in that success. But at what expense? I know a
Right.
lot of successful people that aren't very happy once they hit that mountaintop and say, "Oh, this is what I wanted," and they turn around and guess what? They're alone.
Right.
These old sayings are so true. They're so corny. Money can't buy happiness.
It before you made reference to are you going to get a steak locally or going to
Yeah.
Manhattan, or whatever big city you live around. And I remember this is going back, geez, I bet it was somewhere around 2010-ish, maybe 11. Yeah, maybe 12. I took my three kids into Manhattan, and I think we went to the M&M store. That's kind of like a destination. And my nephew, my brother's son, um, was working at a restaurant in Manhattan, And he says, "Oh," he goes, "Uncle Johnny," he goes, "I'll meet you for dinner." I says, "Okay, good." So I made reservations at a steakhouse in Manhattan. Figure, let's make an event out of it, right? Why not? Me, the three kids, and my nephew.
Nice.
And I knew that any steakhouse in Manhattan was going to be expensive. And I had never been to this particular steakhouse before, but it was in the vicinity without going all the way uptown or downtown. There it was. Okay, great. And we went in and, we ordered up and I was prepared to really, take it on the chin. And what really poked me in the eye hard was the fact that a single glass of wine, and it was a wine that I knew from the local liquor store by my house in Jersey, a single glass of wine was $31. And I thought, wait a minute, that's what the bottle cost back home in the liquor store. What's behind this? And then if you really follow that thread all the way back, you'll find out that that steakhouse is getting raped in rent, raped in taxes, and raped in city fees and local fees and all sorts of bullshit piled on top of it, so that if you follow it all the way back to the White House, they're screwing everybody they can. And whose pocket does it come out of? Yours.
John Q. Public.
John Q. Public.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's $31 for a glass of wine. And I was like, okay, all right. Like, that was kind of a buzzkill, but all right.
Wow.
And that reminds me, that remember that scene from the movie Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield, when he's sitting in the classroom and the professor's talking about the expenses of construction and building a building,
Widgets.
and he says, "Well, but you didn't include this, and you didn't include
the
that,
Teamsters,
and what
yeah.
about paying the Teamsters,
Yeah,
and what
yeah.
about this, and what
Yeah.
about the inspector?" Blew the teacher's mind,
Yeah.
and it was so funny, but it was the truth.
Yes.
So I have a good friend of mine that worked in the food industry when he was a younger fella. This has got to be going back now at least 30 some odd years. And, there was a guy who opened up a pizza parlor in Lower Manhattan. And he started to turn a profit. He was doing well. And within a month of him opening his doors, two guys walk into the shop and start telling him how much they love his shop. You know where this is going?
Oh boy.
Oh, we love the artwork on your picture window. Your pizza's really good. You guys are really nailing it. These were other Italian
Associates?
Americans. These were other Americans of Italian origin. And they says, "Well, look, we love your place so much that we can't imagine anything unfortunate happening to your place. Right, Paisan? Right?" Okay. For the uninitiated, they were getting shaken down. This was the old-fashioned, going all the way back to the turn of the previous century, the old shakedown for protection money. Yeah, I knew the word was there. Protection money. So where did this go? As soon as he said, "Yeah, okay, all right, because he knew he was stuck. Okay, it's going to be $500 a week. They would come by once a week. There goes the $500 right into their filthy fucking hands. Okay. Then a month later, it was $1,000. Then when it hit $3,000, you know what the guy did? He was terrified for his life. He went in on a Friday, finished the day. When the pizza parlor closed late that evening, I'm getting flickers of the light here, and I don't know why that's happening. Anyway, he closed up the shop. He went to the river. He didn't jump in. He threw the keys in the river. Never came back. Never came back. He left everything right there. What do you say about that?
No.
And our persuasion, we're not the only ones that pull that shit.
Oh no.
You know, the whole,
Enforcer.
that's every city. There are those people who do that. And it's not just Americans of Italian origin. That's what Hollywood made famous, you know. But they all do it.
What do you do in that situation? I mean, you're on your own. You're not some big company. You know, if it's a big company, they couldn't do it.
I
Well,
think
maybe they could.
honestly, my nephew, the one who I went to the steakhouse with, he said, "Oh, I think I'm going to open up a pizza parlor." Oh yeah, where? Oh, in Manhattan. I says, "No, you're not. No, you're not."
For that
What do you
reason.
mean? No, I'm not. I says, are you prepared to have the partners that you don't know about after you spend all the money going through all of the fees and the licensing and this and that? I said, that's the mafia as per the local um, ordinances, the local politicians, the local government. What about the other partners that you don't know about? I said, because they're just waiting for you to open up. Oh, that's ridiculous. Oh, yeah? Ask your father. What do you think my brother says to him? Oh, Uncle Johnny, he's just kidding. That's not true. What are you, stupid? I mean, that,
A little bit of a shell there. I mean,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, does that happen a lot still? You think, John, or no? I mean, now
Yeah,
with
I
the
do.
wires and cameras and
Well, it doesn't matter.
yeah,
You know something? The people that would throw a brick through your picture window just for a warning shot over your bow,
mm,
these are the same people, not the person with the brick in his hand, right? But the people that are telling him, hey, go down to Giuseppe's Pizza Parlor and give him a little message, right? From Uncle Patsy. These are the same people that are drinking and playing golf with the chief of police.
mm. I know
So
that.
now where are you going?
Yeah, I know that used to happen a lot when a lot of the immigrants used to come over, and they forget about it. They didn't even know the language that well. They needed a job, and your own people took advantage of you. And when you first came over.
To answer your question, does this thing still happen? I think it's regional, you know. Um, but I'm going to tell you this: a few years ago, maybe 15 years ago, seems like yesterday, a bunch of us went into Brooklyn to a restaurant. I'm not going to say the name of the restaurant. And it was one of those places where you could bring all of your own liquor, but it was $120 a head. You got to get there by 9 o'clock p.m. and you're going to eat and drink like pigs and dance and sing until the sun comes up. And it was right on the boardwalk in Brighton Beach. That should give you a little clue, okay, of who was running the place.
Absolutely.
And what I learned was a friend of mine who set up the whole engagement. He said to me, "Listen," he goes, and I was with my wife, but he said, "Listen, not for nothing." He said, "There's going to be more good-looking chicks in this place than you can shake a stick at." He goes, "Let me give you a little friendly advice." Yeah, what? Like I went with my wife. We were at a table of like 12 or 14 people, and I'm with my wife. Yeah, what kind of advice? What? He says, "Don't even pick your head up to look. Don't look around the room."
Hmm.
He didn't have to say another word. Because if there's some hotsy-totsy chick like you've never seen before, strutting across the dance floor on her way to the ladies' room, if her man or her boyfriend or her sugar daddy sees you looking at her, when you go to the men's room, he's going to put a knife in your ass. That's the kind of place it was. Kind of like worse than the Old West.
I'm guessing you didn't go back.
Well, I took his advice, and I just kept focus on our table. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
Just mind your own business and be very, very aware of the fact that egos were massive, people were maniacs, and I'm sure that there were at least a dozen cold-blooded murderers in that restaurant that night.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you're going back to the '90s or '80s, John, I mean, things were a lot looser back then, and people would take a lot of liberties and get away with
This was
it.
probably 2005,
Oh,
2006.
2005. Oh,
Yeah, it
wow.
doesn't matter.
Wow.
The point is that
Yeah.
regionally, you'll step back into an era
Okay.
where you really better have some fucking idea of where you're going.
Mm.
It's kind of like, remember the night we went into Chinatown and we went to Wohop,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Remember what our buddy did that night at the table? He was making fun at a table full of 19 to 28-year-old, I'm going to say it, local Chinese gang members. And they were a powder keg, ready to go off. And it would not have been good. It would not have ended well for us,
No.
you
No.
know?
It's a numbers game.
Right, but the point is, it was the same thing in that restaurant as it was out on Brighton Beach.
Well, people, in their packs, and a lot of people don't want territory invaded. I mean, if that's the right word, invaded, I don't know. But I mean, outsiders, especially if it's a touristy thing. I mean, tourist people come and they visit restaurants, and you're going into neighborhoods. Look how many vacation spots you go to. If you go to an island, you almost don't know if you're going through. Look how dangerous some of those islands are, right? And you're just going out to eat, or you're
Yeah.
just going to do some shopping, and you make
Yep.
a left when you should have made a right. And all of a sudden, you just have that sixth sense, like something's not right here.
I have another story.
Hard to believe.
Okay, all
Let's
right.
go.
So, I don't think you were with us, but me, my brother, maybe Tom Mantone. Oops, said a name.
Ah,
Gene.
Gene. Okay.
We went into Little Italy to eat.
Nice.
And after that, my brother says, "Oh, well, let's go to Ferrara's Bakery."
Oh,
Right. Okay. Famous place for the uninitiated. Famous place for
Pastries.
dessert, that kind of thing. Boston has their places in Manhattan. Little Italy's got theirs. So we're sitting outside, and I think it was probably September, October, a little bit chilly, but the inside of the place was packed. We weren't going to get anywhere. So my brother goes in and asks, "Can we sit outside?" He goes, "Yeah, sit down. We'll be right out." Okay. We sit down, we order, espresso, cappuccino, all of that stuff. Who's ordering cannolis and Friedel and rum babas and all of that good ass Guinea dessert food that we went for. And it's second to none. It's terrific. So we're like, we just got served our dessert. And this guy, Jesus Lord, staggers up to our table. And there's like a wrought iron rail, right? It's separating us from like the sidewalk and the street. And this guy, somebody beat the holy living shit snot out of him. There was a tooth through his lip, blood everywhere, big gash in his face, the lip was out, snot coming down. I mean, somebody really, really, really rolled this guy. And he's like, and I don't know, this is way before med school for me, but all I thought of was, we got to help this guy. So I jump up and I go run inside, and I go to by that time, the counter crowd had kind of thinned out. So I went right up to the counter and I says, "Hey, bud." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "What do you need?" I said, "Look," I said, "not for nothing, but," I said, "somebody got the shit beat out of him outside and he's right at our table." He goes, "Okay." He hits some kind of like emergency button. He picks up a phone and he's yelling a code. Code blah blah blah. Code blah blah blah. Code blah blah blah. All of a sudden, the lights are going on and off. Tells us, he goes, "Guys, screw." He goes, "Screw. Fuck your dessert. Screw." And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Screw." And I go outside. I go, "Hey, the guy just told us to go screw. Fuck your dessert." And all of a sudden, a big, huge Lincoln Continental pulls up. 3 guys jump out, grab this guy, shove him into the back of the car, whisk him away. So we're sitting there like, holy shit. Then the guy blinks the lights, turns the lights off on the front porch where we're sitting. And we're stupid idiots from Jersey. We're like, hey, we just got our dessert. Guy comes out, he goes, what the fuck don't you understand? He goes, I told you to screw out. And we were like, okay,
Wow.
right? And we realized, well, we didn't pay for it yet. I guess they want us out of here. We got up and we left. And I got to tell you what, whether those guys are the good guys or the bad guys, we never went back.
I'm sure they were taking him to an emergency room, making sure he got the proper care.
I'm sure they took him to the ER.
Ambulance, limo, what's the difference, really? You're just talking semantics.
Right.
I thought you were going to say, oh, it's the, like he was a regular. Like the guy was like some kind of wino or something.
Well, maybe he was, or
Yeah.
maybe he was a regular that owed somebody something, and they decided to, do a little tap dance on him.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
Yeah, that's funny.
that
'Cause
was memorable.
I'll say that's some story. I know,
Yeah.
like sometimes when you see people, if you go to a spot, I have a bakery I go to all the time, and there's usually a homeless guy out there, and he's always shaking or he's look typical homeless, disheveled. He's always eyeballing me, but I love what's up, pal? I'm not afraid to talk to anybody. What's
Right.
going on? So I said, you know what? I said, you need a coffee? He just shakes his head, yeah. And a butter roll or so, a roll, yeah. He shakes it right. So I'm walking away. He goes, 2 sugars and milk. And I'm like, what? Did he just say 2 sugars and milk? I mean, listen, you'll take it how I get it. So I go up to the counter and I tell the girl, listen, I need a coffee, 2 sugars and milk, and a butter roll for. She goes, oh yeah, for Jimmy outside. Yeah, you're the 3rd coffee today he's gotten. So I mean, he's a regular there.
Right.
I figured I was doing the right thing, but they got a system down. So when you said the guy was outside, I thought he was going to say, "Oh, it's so and so."
Well, maybe he was, but maybe they didn't want him around, and maybe he had just come out of that Lincoln Continental.
Yeah.
Now they're going to throw him back in. Who knows?
Wow, that's scary stuff. Wow.
Yeah.
It's funny what goes on in Manhattan. I'll tell you, Manhattan is its own world. There is no city like this. We've said this in previous podcasts. Pittsburgh, I mean, Montreal's beautiful, of course. Toronto, Dallas, wherever you're going. But New York, to me, is one of a kind. Anything you need is in that city at any time of day. Legal, illegal, good, bad, vice, not a vice. It's there.
Yeah,
It's there.
Yeah.
If you know the right friend and you just knock on the door and go, I'm a friend of Mario, they'll let you in.
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was from a movie. I can't remember which one.
I don't know.
So, well, I mean, we covered a lot of bases today, John. I mean, a lot of information, a lot of current events. We started this with your garbage pickup. We handled people that have certain occupations. We need them, even though we don't know anything about the occupations. I mean, I think it was a great talk, great chat.
It was a great chat.
What do you think?
Let's do a turnaround.
Okay.
Let's do a turnaround.
Because there was some negativity
with Archangel Michael's help. And even though I got the button a couple of times, it slipped through. And again, I'll always apologize for being a little edgy. I'm not going to change. I have no intention of changing that side of me. That side fuels the sweet side.
Mm-hmm.
So let's recognize those who are in service to others as opposed to the people who are strictly and ostensibly in service to themselves. The Jersey Alchemist is all about chit-chat and having fun and telling campfire stories around a table. And then loading a big steaming blob of shit onto the table. The dark side stories. Okay. But then what would we be? We wouldn't be alchemists if we didn't do a turnaround spiritually. And today's turnaround is going to be a recognition of those, like I said, who are here to be in service of others. Now, if you could, just take a few moments to take stock of yourself. Take stock of your life, where you've been, where you are, and where you think you're going. If you think that everything you've done is 100% in service of yourself at the expense of others, you might want to just think twice about that, because what you issue out comes back at you tenfold. So, if you're somebody who's in service of just yourself at the expense of others, nothing is really going to change in your life. And if you think deep down inside that you think you have a whole bucket list of things that you want in your life, and if not for you, for your kids, you want the fancy car, you want the shore house with a dock so you can have a boat, because then that'll be when you arrive. You want that big, huge suburban SUV, whatever you think you want. You want the house on the lake, right? It's all a passing fancy, my friends. It's just the accoutrements of a temporary third existential dimension. And it's going to get you nowhere in the long run, I promise. And it's not going to get your kids anywhere either. You might say, well, at least if I die, I can leave the lake house to the kids. Well, guess what? What kind of lesson have you embodied? What kind of life have you shown your children that that's how they should go on, right? Serving yourself at the expense of others. That does nothing but stir up the pot, and now all of the shit is floating up to the surface. So, my friends, be in service of your brothers and sisters. Love God above all others with all your heart, mind, and strength. And love your brothers and sisters as yourself. God bless you, my friends. Can't wait to see you again on the Jersey Alchemist.
Hey, well said. That was
Excellent. Very good.
great podcast. If you like what we're doing, give us a like and subscribe to the Jersey Alchemist. Thank you, everybody. Peace.
Peace.